My heart's going like 10 to the dozen.
Oh,
I'm pressing
sorry.
request.
I know, I get like that as well.
Isn't it? Anyway, we're here.
Now. I'm
Brilliant.
so pleased to have you. Yeah, I'm so pleased.
This
I've got
is
you
a
on.
big buzz for me. I am such a fan, and I don't want to get cheesy, but you have done so much for menopausal women, and I am so grateful for what you've done, and for the chance just to be able to talk about diet, nutrition. It's brilliant, so thank you for inviting me.
No, my pleasure. And I can't believe I didn't even know. I'm so pleased that you reached out to me, because I know of Nick Penne, but I didn't know about you, because and I'm so pleased that you did, because I have lots of nutritionists on, but I don't have ones that actually, like you, work with the menopause and lots of women all the time.
This is what I've done for 20 years. I've worked alongside Nick for a long time.
And he's up there for me, Nick. He's one of the best.
And I am essentially, when it comes to dietetic, I'm Nick's bitch.
Yes, so, I know you are. So I'm going to say you might be mine as well now, because I think I'm going to be having you on quite a lot, because I I think we should do lots more than this one, because we'll get ones into this one.
There's so much to talk about.
Yeah,
and
there is.
For the girls facing this, I think, there are, when you just have to keep holding on to this idea that every single cell in your body is receptive to estrogen. And so the symptoms can be, they can literally go from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. But from my point of view, there's the obvious weight gain that we reckon 75% of women will experience maybe 1.5 kilos every year through perimenopause. The average weight gain is about 10 kilos. Well, Meg, that's a good dress size. 10 kilos on a woman of your size, you will really feel that. And of course, it's all up here, all upper body, suddenly. And the reason, again, we come back to estrogen. Estrogen gave you your feminine shape, that hourglass figure. The lack of estrogen means that you will now start laying fat down in a very similar way to a man, because estrogen is your feminine hormone. You're now deficient. And as a result, you'll start laying down that fat around the internal organs. It's one of the reasons that another risk factor with menopause is heart disease. But at the same time, and I hate to use the term aging, but that lack of estrogen triggers the next stage of aging, which tends to mean that you lose a small amount of muscle tissue, which slows your metabolism down by about maybe 200 calories a day. Not much. It's a glass of wine or a 2-finger Kit Kat. And if you don't make the necessary alterations to your existing diet, you are going to gain. But of course, as we both know, there are masses of other issues as well. But I think always it tends to be the weight that is the main thing. But I also specialise in digestive health and IBS, and I think a lot of menopausal women start having all kinds of digestive problems at this time as well. So, today, I think it's probably good, let's do some general stuff, cover as much as we can
today, and then we can ask people to get questions in, because it's so, like you said, I've noticed I have put on weight, especially in lockdown. And as soon as I put on weight, I feel negative. I feel self-conscious. And I battle with this thing of like, it's like my whole head thing goes. And then I'm like, I'll start the diet. And then it'll be like, I'll start on Monday. And then it's Monday morning. And then you're just like, I've got to start the diet. And then you don't feel really like working out when you're a bit, in the menopause, you feel exhausted. You just don't feel yourself. And so when it comes to diet, I'd love to know what you suggest. So for women to, you know, little steps like, you know.
First thing I would say is, the one thing we have to remember is the sort of diet you might have done in your 30s to lose a couple of pounds to get in your bikini for your holiday is not going to work now. You are dealing with a totally different body. So the first thing that we have got to do is, in terms of a calorie deficit, we need to try and find about 500 calories a day. I don't ever give anyone a standard diet sheet. What we have to do is start with you as you eat now. And then we look at what you do now, and we look where we can trim those 500 calories away. Now, that might be through some portion sizing. It might be through some unconscious grazing, you know, when you're in the kitchen getting food ready. None of it's rocket science, Meg. There's no, you know, you must eat this fancy ingredient or mushrooms gathered with the morning dew on to lose weight. None of that malarkey. That, you know, that's wacky nutrition. What we want is, what do you do now? Because there is something you're doing that is causing this increase. So what we've got to do is trim that back. And about 500 calories a day will give you somewhere between a half and £2 a week. This is not a crash.
This is amazing, because you know what, that 500 calories, like you say, is, I know exactly, like, you know, it's that for me, it would be grazing, watching Netflix in the evening. You know, you sort of, I think, right, I've had my dinner early, and you know, it'll be like, you know, some tofu and steamed vegetables, and I'll be really good and think, you know, no carbs and whatever. This is me, not for everybody. I'll do that, okay, about 5 or 6. Then all of a sudden, like 9 or 10, I'm like, oh, I'll just have a little nip down into the kitchen. And then I'll be thinking, oh, well, this is great, I'm eating nuts. But as we know, that, I mean, I'm not going to eat 4 cashew nuts or 4 almond nuts. The bag comes out, and how full of calories. I know they're good. They're not roasted, and they're, you know, not salted.
Doesn't matter if you're eating nuts or lard, Mac. A calorie is a calorie.
That's what I mean. And that good handful of nuts, where I'm thinking I'm being really good, is a lot of calories. It's probably 800 easily.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. The vast majority of the women that I work with, you know, are well informed. They don't eat pie and chips and 6 pints of lager a night and wonder why they're gaining weight. Most of them eat good, sensible meals, but there is this grazing, there is this craving for sweet foods or salty foods when you're watching TV. In lockdown especially, I think because fewer of us have to get up so early for a commute, there tends to be the thought of, well, I'll just have another glass of wine, I haven't got to get up so early. And unfortunately, the kind of age group 40 plus of females is the age group we're seeing the biggest growth in alcohol consumption at the moment. So again, listen, I'm not the food police. I love a good dinner and a drink and all the rest of it. What you have to do, though, I think, is first of all acknowledge, where are these calories coming from? And that's just from using a really simple tool, old school, a good food and activity diary that helps us see, how does your eating change when you're with certain people, or when you're in a different place, or when your mood changes? Or are you going for really long gaps without eating? A lot of us, again, really kind of work hard through the day, trying to live on thin air, and then get to the evening and, you know, we're ravenous. So, of course, when you're ravenous, you eat until you're stuffed. And what I'm trying to teach people to do is actually spread that intake out through the day. So you only go into a meal feeling hungry, and therefore you only eat until you're satisfied, not stuffed. So actually, the nuts and bolts of the nutrition are, as I say, they're not complicated. It always seems like, God, that's really common sense once we sit down and go through it. The difficult bit is putting it into practice. But I think for anyone watching this today, the one message I would want them to know is, whatever you're going to do to tackle your weight at menopause, to control it, you are going to have to do it for the rest of your life. So
Good. I'm glad you said
don't
that. Yeah.
start. If it sounds too difficult, if it sounds like a fad or a quick fix, it is. And you're going to do, I'd rather you do nothing than start messing around with fad diets, because that's just going to screw your metabolism up even more. And that's where then the next bit comes in. So let's say we get the 500 calories sorted. We also then have to start thinking, so what about exercise and activity? Now, I don't care, again, whether somebody goes to the gym or they do classes or all the rest of it. That's lovely. If you do, what we have to do is get your baseline right. So think of it like foundations to a house. I love the 10,000 steps as, you know, a
Do you
good...
think that's good?
Oh, I love it. I love it because it's something you can do every day. Remember what I was saying. So estrogen's dropped, your metabolism's dropped. We have got to change that. That's where we can reverse time. We can roll time back.
Brilliant.
And the way we do it is by building some more muscle tissue. And the best possible way to do that is by what you do every single day. Great to go to the gym, but you will get far more benefit out of what you do from the gym if you've got your baseline right. So that is 10,000 steps minimum. Very few women I ever see are anywhere near it as an average. They might do it on odd days. That isn't enough. We need to see 10,000 steps a day, every day. Plus about 15 minutes or so of really simple body weight resistance exercise. I like Pilates. It works really well. And generally, again, in clinic, I'll get down on the floor and start rolling around and showing somebody exactly what I want them to do. You know, box press ups, abdominal curls, nothing fancy. What I tend to do now is I've got a couple of Pilates teachers that have filmed some 15-minute morning workouts specifically for this. And honestly, 10,000 steps, 500 calories, plus your 15 minutes or so of simple weight resistance. Give it 3 months and you will be a different shape. And why I get so excited, I mean, I think you can tell I live and breathe this stuff. This is what I do. But I get exactly where you come from. I lived, you know, my family is full of matriarchs, all these women who have battled all their lives with their weight, and I've seen what it does. You know, it makes you utterly miserable, whether you've dealt with it all your life or it's just hit you like a steam train. It changes your identity. Right.
Always on a diet, always struggling with my weight, always tried the new fad, from the Beverly Hills diet to the Atkins, you name it, I did them all.
Sure.
But, you know, and then when I hit the menopause at like the 48, 49, I all of a sudden tried to do all those fad diets. And like you said, you don't keep them up. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing another one. I'm doing the keto because that's me, that's my head. So, you know, I'm doing the keto diet. The 10,000 steps, I only started in lockdowns, but I've been doing it since, so now I've been doing it since the whole of April, May and June. So I walk my dog in the mornings. I haven't the last few days, because of the weather and everything was just awful. But, you know, I would do an hour and a half, and that would probably be 8.5, nearly 9,000.
I was going to say, that gets you well on the way.
There. So, you know,
the beauty with the steps is as well, you can break that down into small sections. So I've got 4 little Jack Russells. If I'm out with the guys, we tend to do about 5,000 in the morning. We'll do another 3 at lunchtime, another 3 in the afternoon. It's done. You know, you break it up however you want to do. But and also, again, you don't need to go and buy fancy equipment. That little heart shape on your iPhone, the health.
On your iPhone. That's what I was going to say. It's there
the
in your
most
pocket.
accurate thing. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got to have your phone with you, but it's brilliant. I love it. It's
it's amazing what you're saying. Yeah.
And the
really
key
good.
to it is look at your average. That's where we see. So again, if you go onto that app on the heart one, and you can look at what you've done today, you can look at your week, your month, and your year's average. I would look at your month first.
Yes. Yeah.
I challenge, there will not be that many people that will be over 5,000.
Yeah, mine was shocking before lockdown.
And we go, if let's say we saw studies out of Loughborough University a few years ago that showed us this. So let's say you're about 5,000 and you say to me, do you know what? I don't want to change anything in my diet, but I'm willing to go up to 10.
Yeah.
Now it's not going to be quick, but this time next year, you would be 1.5 stones lighter.
Wow.
And this is the thing, we want quick fix. And that for me is the big thing. This is the time when you can step back a little bit and evaluate your whole life. You've got another 4 or 5 decades ahead of you.
Yeah.
And this is, a couple of years of real investment of getting your body right, getting your head right, getting everything right to decide what type of 60-year-old, 70-year-old do I want to be.
Absolutely.
We don't have to be like our nans were, because nobody told them about this.
No, we need more people like you. I love the way you're saying this, because everybody who will be on this, and of course we'll be putting this as an IGTV, so then we'll get lots of great afterwards, because not so many people are on now because they're all back at work. But when we make this into an IGTV and it goes on Megsmenopause next week, it will be amazing, because women, and where my head takes me is, I've got to do it now. It's got to be now. But like you're saying, it's about taking that step back. And like you said, I love the way you said, 3 or 4 months, if you take 500 calories away and you start doing the walking, it's not, our bodies aren't instant. It's not like I remember in the days where I'd think, going out on the Friday night, and I would just go like, right, need to get into that little black dress. Well, I could drop like 4 or 5, half a stone.
Yeah,
but now
easily.
I've easily done it. I've looked on the Monday and absolutely at like a lettuce leaf to the Friday, got back on the scales. Not that I'm a massive scales person. I'm more of my clothes fit. And at the moment, I can't get into I've got certain pairs of trousers, which they're like up to my thighs. And I'm like, oh my God, this time last year, I was fitting in them. So within 1 year, I mean, I was just, I'm usually 56 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And within 1 year.
You're a little lady, aren't you?
Right. No, but now I am 66 kilos. So I put 10 kilos on in a year without me even really noticing. And I don't drink alcohol. So it has been foods, and 10 kilos in a year is a lot. So I look back at pictures of me in July last year, and I look at me now, and that's a lot of weight, because I'm 5'4".
Sure, you will feel that, exactly. You'll see
and
it. Your clothes will tell you it.
I'm not feeling the most confident in it. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not going to let this head get there again, because it's like, it doesn't do you any good, because like we say, the way that we speak to ourselves sometimes,
oh God, we're the most cruel to ourselves.
Aren't we, to ourselves? I would never speak to anybody else like that. So why, when I get up in the morning and walk, to go to the bathroom and look in my mirror and then go blah 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 blah,
And you know what? It's not just girls that talk to themselves like that. I mean, gosh, I got my demons, and I can drag myself down into some horrible places just with the noise in my head. And I think, that's again why I think.
Oh, I love you, Nigel.
Oh, bless
so
you.
much. I love your energy. I love everything you're saying.
Well, but what I want to do, I think, you know, it is definitely tougher for girls than it is for guys. The pressure you are under to look a certain way. And when I've read up about like your previous career, I mean, that must have been a nightmare in that kind of environment where
it was awful. I mean,
if you're fat, it just won't work. You can't be in that business. Simple.
No. I mean, tabloids used to write the awful things about me. You know what I mean? I'd see, you know, there would be like the Iraqi war, but instead there'd be a big picture of my bottom plastered, you know, on page 3 of some tabloid newspaper saying who's at all the pies. And I'm like, well, we have a war going on and we have really important issues in the world, but hey ho, let's take a picture of someone.
And they would never say that about a man.
No.
They would just put. So, okay, but that's the world we live in. We can either try and change the world, or we deal with how that affects us. And I think what is really important is, again, for any woman facing this, you have to, instead of fighting it and denying it's even happening, you know, yes, you can go and get an eye lift or whatever you want to do. But if you accept this is a natural part of life, it is something that we now, women have to experience because you live long enough to experience it. Absolutely. In the Victorian ages, the average life expectancy was 43. Women were dead before menopause came, you know, so nature didn't mess it up. It just never thought we'd have the technology to keep everyone alive this long. But so that reality is, if you're gonna live till you're 85 or 90, take the time also that before your period started, you're actually living outside of fertility longer than you are in your fertile years. So you can't allow...
Yeah, you are right. Yeah.
You just can't allow that to be your identity. You have several identities through your life, and now you're going into the phase where hopefully you actually know who you are.
Yeah.
You do, most of us, by the time we're mid-40s, start to know, actually, I don't have to put up with the rubbish that the world throws at me. I am good enough. And, you know, we can kind of, hopefully, we're not still running around after toddlers. They've grown up a bit and are a bit more able to take care of themselves. We've hopefully got to a point in our careers where life is good. You've either decided you like your husband and you're going to stick with it, or you've got rid of him by then. But either way, you know, life is in a position where you know what you did. Now it comes to your health. This is the time, I think, get some real accurate advice. Understand your choices. And, you know, and this goes for everything to do with menopause as well. Don't read the Daily Mail and decide what you're going to do about HRT. Talk to an HRT doctor or a menopause doctor and get the facts. There is, you know, and when it comes to nutrition, I would definitely implore people, you know, make sure you are getting evidence-based information. It's not always the sexiest information, you know, because eating fruit and veg and, you know, watching your portion control isn't as sexy as cutting 3 food groups out and drinking cider vinegar for breakfast. But it works, you know, and you can sustain it. This is the
thing you're saying.
The
big thing.
Never mind about, you know, HRT and breast cancer. The reality is 50% of women, or more women than will die of heart disease postmenopausally than anything else. Now that's where diet can sort your cholesterol out, can reduce your risk of heart disease. If we get 10% of your weight reduced, your risk of heart disease plummets. That's, you know, again, I can't solve your hot flushes by suggesting you eat soya beans. That doesn't really work. What I can do is extend your life. I can improve the quality of your life. And if you are one of those women that would be at risk of heart disease, we might even save your life by using some common sense nutrition.
Yeah.
God, I'm on my soapbox today.
I love
I?
it. Please keep talking, because it's usually me who does all the talking, and I'm just loving. Keep going. You are
Okay.
absolutely sending the right message, and it's the message that I know millions of women who, you know, look at all these fad diets. What you're saying, you know, drop 500 calories, walk 10,000 steps. I mean, come on, ladies. How easy is that to start off with? That is
Totally.
fine, you know, and
Yeah.
you can even get apps, I think, on your phone now for calories.
You
I
can.
mean, you know,
There's
to help
loads
you.
of them free as
Yeah,
well.
there's free, isn't there? Calorie
Yeah.
counting apps
A
and
really simple thing if you're worried about portion sizes. So
yeah,
first thing I'll often be ending up saying to someone is, you know, maybe start eating a little bit more during the day. You need to have a breakfast, you need to have a
yeah,
snack. Then when it comes to lunch and dinner, really to satiate or to satisfy hunger,
yeah,
you need about the amount of food that fits into your cupped hands. It's not
right,
much.
okay,
And
yeah,
often what I'll say to someone is, right, take that amount first,
yeah.
eat it slowly, slow down, because satiety is
I
a
eat really
delayed reaction.
fast.
A lot of, yeah, you know, you
Never
come,
chew, swallow, eat, because I think the faster I eat, I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not really eating that much. Do you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like a weird thing. Like I stand up and I'll just think, oh, quickly eat. The faster I eat. Also, I've been told that sometimes it can release serotonin the faster you eat. And
well, certainly
so
what
I've
it
got in that
does, Meg,
habit, I've
you know,
noticed.
if you're exercising and you get thirsty,
Yeah.
that will be a delayed reaction showing that you were already dehydrated before you were
Okay.
thirsty. In a similar way, when you get that, you know, like if you sit down to a Sunday roast and you get that stuffed feeling,
Yeah, yeah.
you were full a lot earlier than that. And
Okay.
satiety is also a delayed reaction. So if you
Right.
slow down and
Yeah.
take a modest amount first, eat that slowly, and then a bit of mindfulness, just check in with yourself and think,
Yeah.
am I actually still hungry? Still being hungry is
Yeah.
totally different from thinking, oh, that was lovely, I want some more.
Yes.
Fancying
Yeah.
some more is different from
Yes,
being hungry.
absolutely. I know
If
that
you're
stuff
hungry,
feeling.
yeah, if you're hungry, go back and have some more. If
Yeah.
you've satisfied, well, you can wait a little while. Someone's asked a really good question. How
Yeah.
many
Go on.
calories per day? What I would say is I'm not a big fan of counting calories,
Yeah.
but what I would say is first question is always, are you gaining or are you maintaining your
Yeah.
weight? If you're gaining, then clearly we've got probably a bit more than 500 to cut back on. If you're holding it steady, a 500 calorie deficit
Yeah.
is going to be enough.
Okay.
It's very, I mean, you can measure people's calorie requirements using really sophisticated, very expensive equipment. Actually, what's the point? Are you losing or are you gaining or are you maintaining? Whatever you're doing, we then plot what you need to do according to that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's around about probably about 15 to 1800 calories for most women,
Yeah.
but don't get het up on the number. Look at what is happening to your body,
Yeah.
and that will tell you what to do next.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to follow your advice. I'm going to do the 500. Definitely. I'm going to keep a little diary because we are going to do more of these. Definitely. Because I want to
Definitely.
do.
What
Yeah.
I'll do, I'll send you the diary I use, because it really helps us look at what your eating is like in
Yeah.
different environments, and particularly that
I definitely
emotional
comfort
eating.
eat. I use food as
Oh,
an emotional food because I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I don't drink. And of course, as we know with addicts, when you put one thing down, the other thing pops up. So, you know,
yeah,
it could be shopping, it could be anything. But I noticed that I emotionally ate from a very young age, from about 13, 14, because I went to boarding school. But then when I used to go back home to my parents' house, you know, the kids there I wouldn't really know them you know, because I was away at boarding school in Oxford. And so, and I remember in those holidays, I started to, you know, because I've done a lot of therapy, I started to emotionally eat back then.
yeah.
And if I'm feeling anyway, like a bit, you know, most people say when I get stressed, I don't eat, but I will definitely want to be doing this. If I'm stressed, if I'm happy, you know, it will, it's filling that void. And I have to be very careful of that.
We have more in common than you could possibly imagine, Meg.
Oh.
9 years for me. I don't know about you,
well
but
done.
You too.
Congratulations.
But I absolutely hear what you're saying. And I know that that kind of learned behavior is something that leads to all of those kinds of almost obsessive behaviors, whether it be alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, shopping, gambling, sex, you name it. Very often
we go
one learn,
the other one pops up.
Yeah. And we learn to change the way that we feel with a substance of some kind. And that could easily be chocolate or crisps or cheese. And often when we're kids, that's exactly, it might well be, I'm back.
Don't go, oh, this. You're back, great.
It might well be, you know, you don't behave yourself and you won't get sweets. Or it might be, you know, you don't eat all your dinner and you're not going to the park. We use food with kids in quite a destructive way. It's funny, I was a fat little boy and my mum was a heavy lady. My mum was in slimming clubs all of her life. She's sadly died now. But when I was about 6, we were allowed to take kids back then. I'm 52. We were allowed to take kids to slimming clubs. And as a 6-year-old boy, I was forced to sit in a corner and wear a pig mask when I put on weight in this slimming club. You imagine if we did that now, you know, I mean, it's just... I
know, when you think, well, don't worry, I had the same sort of thing with my dad. I mean, he's great, but he was a really health fanatic and always fitness and everything. And he would always sort of, oh, you've got those chunky thighs, Meg, and stuff like that. But, you know, it's not good to be telling a teenager these sort of things, you know. It's like, oh, you've got, you know, you're quite, you know, the little sort of remarks at that age, they have their effects on you, and they stand with, as we know from early age, we pick up a lot of our stuff, and it's very weird that it always sort of comes out in your 40s and your 50s is when, you know, things come up a lot more.
I think this is where subconsciously we decide no more.
Yeah, no,
you know, I am
more
not
empowered now.
Living with these voices.
Yeah, in my 50s, I'm like that now. I'm like, no more, you know, your 20s, your 30s. But when I got into my 50s, I felt more empowered because, like you said, I just went, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting up with that anymore. I'm going to take control of Meg, and Meg is going to say, you know, yes or no, which is, you know, it's a shame that I had to wait to my 50s, but
what a gift to get that recognition.
Yeah, what a gift. Now I'm, you know, on this new journey and I feel more empowered, and that's what made me want to come out and be of service to women, because as, you know, as being a recovering addict, you know, I know about, you know, helping and passing on, and it was just what I believed was my journey. Was to do this, was to help women with the menopause and come out and be totally honest and not just be like another, you know, celebrity or a face that was just like, you know, didn't have any symptoms or had terrible anxiety and, you know, was overwhelmed with life and putting on weight. You know, I just thought, no, I'm going to share this with everyone because, you know.
It's so important. And that's what is funny. I didn't know a lot of that history, but something comes through, because that's, you know, when we started at the beginning, and I just thought, God, look what you've done. You know, it's brilliant. It really is brilliant. And what's lovely, you know, I talk a lot with other experts and health professionals in this area. And what is lovely is you have got so much respect for what you've done. Yes, totally. And I think, you know, that's really brilliant, because actually you can make this accessible to people that often the medics can't. We have to work together.
Yeah, but I
because
have to have experts behind me. But as I feel my calling is to, you know, as we know, like with HR and people, they say if they've employed me to go into some big company and I'm going to do a talk on the menopause at lunchtime, because it's Meg Matthews, you know,
people
they're
will
quite
come.
intrigued, so they will come.
Yeah.
But, you know, but I also like to, you know, I get all my information without people like you, without the experts like you, and the other Dr. Louise Newson and Nick Penney. I need to have the experts, but I can always give the message. And they will come at lunchtime just because they're interested. But then if they just had an expert come in, you know, the likelihood of them turning up.
I don't get bums on seats, Meg, you do. So
Yes.
just wanted to ask you then, so
Yes.
when you started experiencing all of this, did you notice any changes as well with your digestive health? Did you start getting any bloating or problems there?
Yeah, I basically, of course, I did the whole, candida, gluten-free, I did everything. I just found that my body just didn't digest like it used to digest.
Yeah.
So, you know, it would basically, I would get bloated, and I always had quite a flat stomach. I would always get a bit bloated after certain foods, which never happened before. So,
and again, there is that very common.
Yeah.
Often, again, when you think back to your when you used to get cramps before periods, there often will be abdominal pain and what have you when these hormones are going all over the place. But it's not uncommon at all for a woman's digestive system to start to struggle at the same time. And there's a lot now that we can do to really improve that by looking at your microbiome, the bacteria in your gut, looking at one particular dietary approach, the low FODMAP diet, really can help.
That one.
So this isn't a weight loss diet. This is a diet for IBS, which helps eliminate some of the fermentable carbohydrates from your diet to give it a break. We invest that, then lets us see, well, are you feeling better as a result of taking those foods out? Now we can start reintroducing them one at a time to understand which one might be a trigger for bloating or a change in bowel habits. It's not an allergy, you know, this will be that you're just struggling to digest it.
Yeah, of course.
And if at the same time we're nurturing your gut with some really clinical style probiotics that can really restore the balance in your gut bacteria, a little bit of stress management, some good exercise, and we put together.
I looked on your website and you've got Simprove on there, haven't you?
I love it.
And everybody I know who uses it swears by it. And I was thinking of doing their 12-week. They're on do a 12-week.
Yeah.
I did use it before. I had it like a couple of years ago. I just bought 3. I had 3. I remember doing it and I loved the taste. But I didn't keep it up. And then when I was just looking, having a little spy on you, as we do, I saw you had Simprove and I was like,
were you stalking me? How exciting!
Of course I was stalking you.
I haven't been stalked before. I love it.
Well, I was stalking you and I saw Simprove and I was like, I must get back on that.
Well, it's something I use a lot. I mean, ultimately, the things that through life that will disrupt your gut bacteria can be things like antibiotic use. If you've had periods of gastroenteritis or food poisoning, so, you know, tummy bugs, high levels of chronic stress. One of the groups I work with a lot are people from the music business and also barristers, you know, just running on stress and anxiety.
That was me. Cortisol levels are through the roof.
Right.
You know, anxiety levels. I mean, the reason I couldn't do with you last week was because my anxiety levels were through the roof. It was just, I couldn't actually do it. I burnt out. I had to take some time out because I was so anxious. I just had to say to everyone, that's it. It's 5 days, nothing, you know, because I was running on that and I can feel that running and it's so unhealthy.
Horrid. That butterflies in your tummy all the time and feeling you know, just your confidence just disappears,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It's like you
Yeah.
can't open the door, never mind doing
No,
Instagram
yeah,
live.
and that's when I
Yeah.
get that anxiety, that's how it hits me. It
Well, that, do you know,
literally,
it is funny. I swear the moon was going off last week
yeah,
because
it was
I was
definitely.
with you. I
Were
was
you?
feeling
Yeah, it was.
exactly like
But
that.
I'm starting to feel really good today.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we are tomorrow. Mercury retrograde goes, and we should all be.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
But just
Yeah.
back to the gut bacteria. So
Yeah.
we've got antibiotics, stress, actually also, you know, periods of very poor diet that you will often see when someone's had some substance issues, but
Yeah.
also physical stress or trauma. Now, when we think about women, what could be more stressful or traumatic to the abdominal area than having a baby, and particularly having a C-section? So very often, if you look at all of those things, stress, antibiotics,
Yeah.
food poisoning, having a baby, who doesn't need a little bit of support with their
Yeah,
gut
of
bacteria?
course.
You
Yeah.
know? And what's fascinating, this is one of the areas of medicine that almost starts to sound like it is kind of from the wacky end, because we are learning so much about the gut bacteria and its links with our brain function, with appetite, with the nervous system, and of course with digestion.
Yeah.
But actually, that has totally revolutionized how we can look after people with IBS. When I trained years ago, we were literally told you manipulate people's fiber, you can put the fiber up, you can put the fiber down,
Yeah,
but the
I
problem,
remember that.
right,
The orange drink,
yes,
fiber gel,
yes,
whatever. You used to get a box
yeah,
of that if you had IBS. They'd go, here's your box of fiber gel.
exactly. Nobody told you to drink more and you ended up constipated,
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
yeah.
But now I reckon probably a good 3/4 of sufferers we can pretty much get rid of it.
Amazing.
And that is, you know, that's fantastic, because again, if you're somebody who has to say, you know, get up and give presentations and you're worried because you're so bloated you look pregnant,
Yeah,
or that you're worried if you get the call to go to the loo you're not going to make it, it
yeah.
really starts to, you know, to
Well,
impede your life.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I'm looking at the time because it's
Oh, we're going to run out.
12:56.
Yeah.
So we're going to run out, and because at 1 o'clock, because I've hurt my back, can you believe it? So I've got the chiropractor coming at 1. So
Well, you can go and get
it's been
yourself
amazing,
sorted.
Nigel. Oh
I've
my
loved
God.
it.
I'm so pleased we connected. I'm going to give you my phone and let's chat after or later on today, because I want to get you back on. Let's do more on IBS. Let's do more on the digestive. Let's help these menopausal women. The information today was amazing. You are fantastic.
Bless you.
Love
So
your energy. And it's so nice to connect with someone new and someone that's basically on the same journey as me. And we're going to help these women all over the world and all over here, whoever, because they need it, because the weight gain, I mean, the DMs that I have constantly about this, you know, is going to be amazing. And they can watch this IGTV, and then these little steps that most women can put in, instead of like you're saying, do this fad and that fad, you know, the 10,000 steps, take away the 500 calories, you know, and just do these little things. But like you said, I'm not going to lose a stone in 3 weeks. I'm not.
The only
I'm
way you're going to do that is cut your leg
and
off.
it's going to be 3 or 4 months. But if I look at September thinking, wow, I'm going to get into all those lovely winter clothes again.
Exactly. And this, whilst we've still got a tiny bit of lockdown left, this is your moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grasp it.
I'm with you. Anyway, Nigel, love you lots, and I will be in touch, and you will be back on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
Have a beautiful weekend. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.